1 in 4 healthcare dollars in the U.S. are spent on diabetes and diabetes-related complications. And what's more, only 1 in 3 Americans with type 1 diabetes uses a pump, and that number really hasn't changed much in the past 15 years. Modular Medical has a large portfolio of patented technology that makes insulin pumps easy to learn, use, and afford. And with me is the CEO, Jeb Besser, to explain what you've got here and what problem are you solving in the diabetes world.
So the problem we're solving in the diabetes world is that pumps are better care. If you have a pump on, it gives you that slow basal drip for 50% of your insulin and the ability to push a button to bolus yourself around a meal, which we know makes bolusing around a meal much more frequent and more predictable. However, most people are still using needles and syringes 30 years after pumps were introduced. And the reason is that the current pumps are very complex, very costly, and very cumbersome. And so we've tried to design a pump that will solve all 3 of those problems for as many people as possible. Not if you're using your current pump and you're happy with it, that's great, you're getting great care. But current pumps require an average of 30 to 60 minutes a day to manage. And most people are not willing to do that. And that's what we have to do, is to make it easier for these devices to be learned and to be managed on a daily basis.
And people haven't really adapted them over 15 years. That tells you something about the marketplace.
Yeah, well, it's that they're in this echo chamber of listening to only the most educated, most motivated, best insured users, and who have time to fill out the surveys and have time to interact and want the features that are going to enable them to get great care. But there's a huge benefit to the healthcare system and to the patients from getting someone who's a 10 A1C down to a 7. Not getting someone who's a 6.5 down to a 5.2 or a 5.4, which is where someone without diabetes would be.
All right, so this is where Modular Medical comes in. You've got this pump that solves a lot of those issues, right?
Yes, we just got this pump cleared by the FDA on September 4th. And so it's a 2-piece pump. It's the first pump that's 2-piece like this. Other pumps have a cartridge, but it's not as explicitly 2-piece. So this is the reusable. This lasts for 90 days. And we give you this for free. And then this is the consumable, 12 molded plastic pieces and a coin cell battery. And you put these 2 together with about the complexity of a McDonald's Happy Meal. And, let's see. Yeah, the light's on. And now it's ready.
And that tells you it's working.
And there's an app on your phone that you can use if you want to tell you that it's working, or you just bolused yourself. You probably don't want to do that again for a little while. But everything you need to do with this pump, you can do with the button. And that's very different from the other products, which either have a much more complex interface on the device, or require a second cell phone, or require a cell phone to be present in order to use them.
Now, you just got approval for this a month or so ago. Have you had enough kind of data to see how people are liking it, patients are liking it, physicians are liking it?
So one of the complexities of getting an insulin pump cleared is that you're not actually allowed to pump insulin into anyone with an experimental pump. The FDA views that as highly unethical.
I see.
Because if an insulin pump fails and the 2 to 3 mLs of insulin goes into you all at once, you die in a couple minutes. So it has not yet pumped insulin on a person yet. We've done all the testing to prove mechanically that we are safe and effective, just as safe and effective as the other pumps. But we're in the process of setting up a small clinical trial to make sure that people can use it properly, and that we've worked out all the kinks before we do a broad product launch early next year.
Got it. Now talk about the affordability of it. And what's currently on the market in terms of price range, and how will this differ? So
what's currently on the market are Tandem and Medtronic each have about 1/3 of the market of current pumps, and those are durable medical devices that cost $4,000-ish upfront, and then have a cartridge that you change every 3 days that costs about $14. The most successful product in recent times has been the Insulet Omnipod, where you're paying for it as if it's a pharmaceutical. You fill a prescription and you get 10 pods, and they last you for 10 days. And those pods are upcharged to subsidize the cost of the handset that has to come with it. The problem with that is that they're throwing away all the electronics, the drivetrain, and all this stuff that you need in order to make the pump accurate and safe and effective. You're throwing those away every 3 days. think about how wasteful that is compared to reusing them for 90 days. Like our electronics just last 30 times longer than theirs do, but aren't in a form factor that costs thousands of dollars. And so we're sort of treading in the middle, and the idea is to try and go after the 80% of people who should be wearing a pump but aren't, and overcome as many of those objections that they've had.
Yeah.
And there's a great example of a product like this, the Abbott Freestyle Libre, which you might have seen, which gets advertised on TV now all the time. When it came out in 2016, it was far less full-featured than the other glucose monitors that were on the market. And it was not, you know, the experts in the space were like, why does anyone want this less accurate version of Dexcom? But 5 years after it was introduced, it had as many users as Dexcom. But Dexcom kept growing too because they're different audiences. They're, you know, the current pumps I would equate to a $2,000 latte machine. Makes a beautiful cup of coffee if you know how to spin all the levers and the dials just right, but nobody's made a Keurig yet.
Yeah.
And that's the idea here, something you can manage in less than 10 minutes, that you can learn in less than 30, that provides most of the benefit of a pump.
Very user-friendly. So
Yeah,
it's
extremely
a big thing.
user-friendly.
Now that you've got FDA approval, what's next? Do you hire a big sales force? What happens?
So I think if you tried to launch this product and it looked just like the other products in the space, it would cost a lot of money, you know, probably $500 million and take 10 years in order to get any kind of traction. But because we're so different, and because you can learn the product in less than, the user burden to learn the products is less than 30 minutes, we think we can employ a very different sales strategy. And detail the physicians and detail the nurse diabetes educators who bear the brunt of teaching people how to use these complex and difficult products. And I think they know that there's an audience out there for this. We surveyed 10% of the endocrinologists and nurse diabetes educators in the US and asked them, what percentage of your multiple daily injectors would you put on a pump that was easier to use, less full featured, less costly? It's basically us, right? And they said 1 in 4. And remember, it's multiple daily injectors, not how many of your current pump users would you switch to this, but what percentage of your people who are still using needles would you try and put on a pump like that? But they don't just say 1 in 4. They usually list 10 to 20 people who they see every month or every couple months who've come in and already raised their hand and said, I want a pump, but I have friends who are on these and I'm not doing that.
Okay.
Show me something different. And for a long, long time, there has been nothing different.
else.
Yeah.
What is a FDA cleared pump worth, would you say, in today's market?
Well, that's a good question. There's never been any pump that's been cleared in a public vehicle has achieved at least a $300 million market cap after clearance, in contrast to our sub $100 million market cap. Medtronic bid $740 million in cash last year for a company called EOFlow in Korea, which was not cleared in the US, that had a product that looked a lot like the insulin Omnipod. They ended up abandoning that deal in December, but they were going to bid $740 million cash for a product that is less far along than ours in the US, and it had 5,000 users worldwide when cleared in Europe and Korea. Another company, Beta Bionics, has 10,000 users, and their last financing, as we understand it, was about a $200 million valuation. So, I think the answer is a lot more than where we're trading for.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, if you just take current reimbursement rates and discount them somewhat to account for the fact that we're a simpler pump, even though our label is identical to the other products in this space, that's a $3 billion total addressable market. Just 25% of the multiple daily injectors who aren't on a pump right now, who so far have not adopted technology, 30 years after technology was introduced.
Yeah.
So I think there's a big greenfield opportunity for us that doesn't involve going out and trying to compete with the big three who are doing $1 billion in revenue each, and doesn't involve a massive sales force.
Yeah.
There are actually only about 200 nurse diabetes educator practices in the US who teach people how to use pumps that are high volume. And so we would target those with a small direct sales force, and we'd probably initially use distributors to try and reach out to all the other doctors who aren't writing a pump. I mean, it's kind of incredible, but 30 years after pumps were introduced, there are only 4,000 endocrinologists who see patients in the US, and only 1,500 have ever written a pump.
Yeah. You get in a comfort zone, and but a new product can shake things up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, it's a lot of work to try and teach someone how to use one of the current pumps. It's multiple days of in-person instruction.
All right.
Which is why they usually put the burden on the manufacturer to teach you how to use them.
Got it. Well, best of luck, and keep us posted on as you start to take this out to the marketplace.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.